So when you look at this grade behind me, it looks like it's got a nice taper running away from the house. But actually, it's the reverse. I literally just snapped these lines. So we hit it, and so we broke it. Let's try to get this thing actually set up and running. There we go. I always figured that Dewalt made good tools. I just never realized how tough they make good tools. So today, as much as it hurts me to do, you're gonna see me push some of these tools as far as I possibly can. Alright guys, we got a lot of ground to cover today, and I don't want to waste any time because we are going to be talking about rotary lasers, how to set a grade, how to set a footing, and exactly what all this equipment actually is. By the time you're done with this video, you should be able to bring a brand new employee in, sit him down, and if he watches this whole video, he should be able to go out to your job site and be fairly comfortable and familiar with the names of all the tools, plus the basic concepts of how to use a rotary laser out on your job site. Let's start transiting, rotary lasering, and doing whatever the hell it is I do. Alright, so let's talk about what the basic components of a rotary laser are. And let's start with the actual rotary laser. That's this unit right here. This is not to be confused with a transit. Now a transit looks a little bit like the sight on a rifle, and it's actually used the same way, but a transit requires two people. A rotary laser, on the other hand, requires one man, mano y mano. Now I'm also I used to always use a Topcon laser, and recently, well not recently, about 10 years ago, whoa. Topcon is a registered, Topcon is a trademark of Kabushiki Kaishi Topcon Corporation, which has not endorsed, approved, or sponsored this video. But Dewalt has. Alright, God, that looks really clear. Alright, so what I'm actually talking about, you guys, is this was Dewalt's idea. This video, to bring you guys the basic fundamentals of how to run a rotary laser, was brought to you in part by Dewalt. So there you go. Big thanks goes out to them for helping put this video together. I switched over to Dewalt lasers, and there's a reason, and we'll cover that later on, but I want you to get basically familiar with what this is. This is a rotary laser. This is actually the receiver. This is the grade rod. The receiver slips nicely onto the grade rod and allows you to determine where your grade is at. That's it. This, guys, is your tripod. So when you're out on a job site, if your foreman says, hey, go grab the tripod, don't bring him this, don't bring him this, bring him this. If they say they need the receiver, here you go. Grade rod, here you go. And they may call this a transit, but it's not. It's actually a rotary laser. One way or another, you'll know that this is not any of those other ones. So now that you're familiar with the basics of what we're going to be using and the names of the tools, let's actually start to use them. So let's say you're out in the real world on a job site. Now, I'm in my living room for a reason, because it's 7 degrees outside and it's flipping cold, and it's easier for me to explain this stuff when I'm not freezing my. But let's say you're out in the job site in the real world, and your job supervisor says, hey, we need to set up the laser. It's rotary laser. Remember, Stan, rotary laser. It's not that hard to say. The very first thing you need to do is get this thing as absolutely flat as you possibly can. That may not always be possible. I'm not going to be able to duplicate some of the conditions you get outside out in the ground, but I am going to do the best I can. Let's say you've got really uneven terrain. These legs are adjustable. They allow you to get the laser or the tripod, see, even I'm screwing up, as level as possible. By adjusting one of the legs down, you can then go over the top of obstacles. The most important thing you need to remember when you initially set up your tripod is try to get it as stable as possible and out of the way. Also, when you initially set up the tripod where the rotary laser is going to go, don't put it behind where people park their cars. The rotary laser depends on shooting a laser out and allowing the receiver to interact with that laser. It literally is shooting out a laser beam 360 degrees. If you have any obstructions between this and the receiver, your rotary laser isn't going to work. The ground you put the tripod on is actually pretty critical. If you have soft ground and this thing moves or adjusts, it's not just going to throw your numbers off, but if it gets too far out of whack, it's gonna throw the whole thing off. And what happens then is you have to start all over again. But you can't just go out, pick it up, set it back up, and keep reading numbers, because that'll throw all of your calculations off. Once you set up the rotary laser, you then have to establish a benchmark. You have to mark down what that benchmark is, and then you can do the rest of your calculations from there. Let's try to get this thing actually set up and running. This does not have to be perfect for this Dewalt laser. Now, if you're using a Topcon or another laser system, that actually has a big impact on what you're trying to do. And sorry, my bird talks because I talk. So you can hear her in the background. Once we get this fairly close, we actually can hook it into the tripod, get it secured. Don't just set it up there and leave it. Now, I am slightly off balance here. You guys can probably see that. So I'm gonna do the best I can to try to eyeball this to get it right. Some rotary lasers are gonna have individual adjustments and then a bubble that you actually have to get it all lined up. If that's the case, well, those are just extra steps, and that's also why I like to go with these. I also like to go with these because they're drop resistant. So once we get this, what I feel is set up, I turn it on and then I let it be for a minute, because right now it's calibrating itself, and then it'll start to spin on the inside. Now we've got the rotary laser is spinning. That is the rotary laser establishing its own balance right now. And you've got to give it a minute to do that. And we're actually going to talk about what all of that means right now. Let's pull this Topcon apart once real quick. So the Topcon will, when you power it up, they will self-level. Let's see, I don't even think it will power up right now.
No, it's pretty cold.
So all of these will self-level to a certain extent. So when you set it up, you've got to get the laser, the rotary laser, close, and then from that point, it'll take it over for you. But we don't have, in this one, we don't have rechargeable batteries anymore. So that means when the batteries go dead, I'm running to the store. The reason I switched to the Dewalt, Sam, can you grab this camera for me real quick? The reason I switched to the Dewalt is because I can pop the battery out, and this is just something, you know, you guys use your common sense. You can pop the battery out, and I also know exactly where my battery life is because it's got an indicator on here. Also, with these babies versus like the Topcon, check this out. Topcon's flashing. Look at this. Battery's dead. Okay. It's also telling me that it's out of level. So, and this laser right here is about 2G. Now, I've probably bought at least a dozen of these over the last 15 years or so, and they get dropped, they get lost, and 2,000 bucks when you drop it or lose it kind of sucks. These cost a fraction of what that costs. This gives me 2,200 feet of laser that I can read, more distance than my Topcon will give me. And this will do everything that my Topcon will do. So why would I spend almost 4 times the amount on a laser when I can spend less and pop this battery out and use it in my drill if I have to? I'm not trying to sell you these lasers, but if you guys are in the market for one, this is where I've migrated all of my choices to, and it just makes sense. So let's actually show you guys how to read grade. And check this out, guys. Sam, show me your fingers. You a little cold today?
A little bit.
It's like 7 degrees out. Feels like 7 degrees. All right.
Use my fingers in the gloves.
All right, let's set up the laser, and then we'll show them how to read a footing. You got your laser, you don't know what your elevation is, you set it up. and it won't start. Well, it's not gonna start like this. Like, you literally just gotta get this thing somewhat close. Eyeball it, and then come in a little tight. We hit the go button right here, and this laser will automatically level, but if you're too far out of spec, it won't. Now, Sam, can you see this part right in here? Because what it's doing right now is it's attempting to level itself. I may have it too far out of spec. I literally just slapped it down, and this is trying to correct for the crap that I just did. We'll see if it will. And there it goes. So now that means that this thing, let's look at it from the top down watch. I want to show these guys. You see how far over the dot is? That's kind of an indicator of how far away we are from it. But now let's talk about, we got the laser set up. It's rotary laser, dude. Not laser, rotary laser. We know we're operating, but we've got to dig. How far down did we dig with this one, Tim?
20 feet.
We dug 20 feet deep. That's what Tim tells his wife too.
She believes me.
So do you have a benchmark set up on this wall?
No, sir.
All right, so what we're gonna do, actually we've got bottom of footing right here. Sam, do you want to go? A typical construction site. Sam, go over on that side for me, will you? So this is our benchmark right here, guys. We're gonna use the top of the first block. Now in this case, I'm just using this as a demonstration of how to read numbers. But what I'm doing is I got my transit set on the top of our very first block. Laser, how many times do we have to go over this? Rotary laser, not laser, rotary laser. I'm gonna find where she beeps. She's gonna be right about here. And what you see me doing is looking directly into the rotary laser.
Please,
Don't do that. Just don't. If you care about your vision.
Unless you got your green goggles on.
Yes.
Green goggles.
If you do gotta look directly into your rotary laser, just use your green googles. All right, so we are right now at 3'5.5" on our stick. Now we want to get the bottom of our footing down 12 inches below that, so the numbers will actually go up. We're going lower, so as you go lower, the stick goes down, your numbers go up. So let's go over here. So the bottom of this block should be 12 inches lower.
Sam, where's that chisel?
4'5".
It's right back here.
So we're right there. We've got our setback down 6 inches here, and we want to go 6 inches deeper, so that puts us 1 foot below where our benchmark is. On this wall, we're going to be using the top of that block to set the rest of these blocks. That way, as we dig the trench, we know exactly where we've got to go. And we'll just take it and run it all the way down. So as you go deeper in the trench, the numbers will go higher on the stick. That's what you need to remember. So here's something fun, guys. When we talk about challenging job sites, Tim called me up in a panic Thursday of last week, right, Tim? You're right, Stan. You're right. But
I love your impersonation of me, you know?
Hey, you said the owner of the plumbing company came out?
Yep.
That was pretty cool.
The owner came out, got down in the hole, started working, and showed me everything you need to do this right. And I said, let me know if you got any questions. Otherwise, it's a pretty hefty bill for his company to come out and do it.
And so he literally just came out, told you what to do. Dude, that is huge, man.
Freaking, I'm using that guy forever. Anything I need, any kind of services, well, I'm calling that guy if I ever need anything.
Dude, that is awesome. A little goes a long way, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So what did he tell you to do?
It's all based on the curvature of the earth. We'll get in deep here, okay?
So Tim doesn't want to tell you what the owner of the company told him to do. Do you know why Tim doesn't want to tell you?
That little piece of poop.
Yeah.
There you go.
The reason Tim doesn't want to tell you what he told you to do is because on Thursday, he called me in a panic, goes, we snapped the sewer line, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, Tim, go get 2 fern cones. 1, 2, cut the pipe with our concrete saw, put a fern co on each end, and then put a new splice to the pipe in. But that wasn't good enough for Tim. He had to think about it. And then the next day he called me up and said it's way more complicated than that.
Well, it's not just, I'm just gonna let you go with it. Now I'm gonna say nothing, but
Really, Tim?
not more complicated. I just want to do things legal.
Okay. So what is the correct fix that we're gonna do, Tim? Does it got anything to do with, did the owner say to use 2 fern cones and a new pipe? Just wondering. Just wondering.
Captain Snark.
It is what it is. Sometimes, guys, you don't have to overthink it, but you do got to do things the right way. I respect him for wanting to do things the right way. Did it really make you feel better when that guy came out and told you to do the exact same thing I told you to do?
Yeah, it kind of did, because he's a licensed plumber and knows what, you know, the right proper way to. Even though you were right, oh, that hurts to say. But
I think my head will get bigger.
I think you got a little.
I'm already on YouTube, and you know I got to have that much attention. So.
I know. Look at me, everybody.
Please look at me. It's been 2 days and you haven't looked at me in a video. Please watch me some more. All right, well, I'm off to another challenging job site. I literally just snapped the phone and cable lines running from the house out to the barn. Now most of you guys probably know that you have to mark utilities before you start excavating, but here's something that some of you may not know, is the utility companies will only mark the lines that they install. Any private lines will not get marked. That means that a line running from a house to a barn, a garage, or a shop installed by a homeowner or a different contractor won't be marked. That's why these got hit. Here's another thing. These are still hot. Even though it's a phone and a cable line, if I touch these ends, it'll wake me up. Please, no! All right, so we're at the next job site. All right, so we're gonna talk about digging footings now. Blaine, you've already got this one set. What I want to relate with these guys is how you establish the elevation, because we've got almost an 18-inch deep trench in this case. Can you talk us through it?
Well, because the soil out here was a little on the soft side, we talked to the engineer and he said to go at least 12 to 18 inches of base underneath the first block. Usually we only go 6 inches if it's good solid ground, but in this case we went 18 when it was really soft, and we're down to about a foot of base under this first block. So then we want to go about a foot in front and a foot in behind.
Okay. So when we're actually setting up, if you want to come in a little bit tighter, what Blaine is doing right now is he's got enough dug out so that he can put his rock down in place, and he's actually not using a real grade rod, because you don't always need to have a grade rod when you're actually, once you get your elevation set, you can set the elevation on the stick and then you can just use the stick. This gets a little bit more advanced because now you're really not reading numbers as much as you are understanding where the grade needs to be. Is that right?
That's correct.
So here's where Blaine's first block is, but here's where he wants his elevation set, is right here. And if we flip it around, if you come in, you can actually hear he's got this dead on. And instead of using a transit in this case, he's actually just setting it up. So he's got a mobile. He's literally, as he's building, he's just going to be using the rotary laser down the line to continue to establish. So he knows that his rock is always going to be right here. If you can look, that means, do you got a tape by any chance? I figured he would have a tape. He's got a tape right there. So if you look, here's where his rock is going to be. And it also means that he's got almost a foot. Yeah, it's actually a foot right on the dot. As he's going down the line, he's going to be transferring that all the way down. Now, I got a question for you. You've been using this Dewalt laser for all summer long.
Yeah.
Did you know it actually has something called Tool Connect? It's actually called Tool Connect technology, and that's a trademark of Dewalt. And yes, they made me say that. I don't know why. They just did. I don't really get it, but whatever.
I did not.
Okay, do you know what Tool Connect is?
Must connect us to tools.
Well, what it does, you wouldn't know, and actually we wouldn't use it much on our job sites, but when we get onto our massive projects where we're maybe putting in a retaining wall over here and then one all the way across the lake, you can literally set the laser up across the lake. It will shoot that far, and then if you ever lose the laser, it will actually track your laser while you're out on a job site. It will actually tell you where your laser is.
No.
So
App then?
it's an app. It's an app, but it's an app for guys that use it on massive projects, or if they're using it, they can also use these lasers inside on houses and things like that, and it'll tell them exactly where it is so that the laser doesn't walk off the rotary. This is technically a rotary laser, so the rotary laser doesn't walk off on one of their job sites. Now, question. There's more than one way to skin a cat, and there's more than one opinion on any subject. And so I wanted to find out from Blaine if he liked the Dewalt laser or the Topcon. Just because I like it doesn't mean he's going to like it. And I want to find out from him what he feels about it, good, bad, or in between. And the reason I'm beating this dead horse is because I am a little bit salty at Topcon, because when I was starting out, I remember spending thousands of dollars on lasers that I didn't have. I just didn't have it, and there was nobody else out there providing an alternative method. And so when these Dewalt lasers finally came out, it was like, I really honestly appreciated the fact that I wasn't spending so much money on just a rotary laser. And so that's why I'm covering this subject in so much detail. Now let's also look at how we actually read a grade out on a job site. This is going to be the next thing that we need to cover, because if we're ideally setting grade for a patio or something else, we want 1 inch of drop per every 8 feet of run, meaning that every 8 feet we go out, the grade should drop 1 inch. Now we're not setting this up for a patio, but I just want to kind of walk you through how we read a grade like that. So if this is going to be our high point at this point, we get our initial grade set. Again, we're going to be at 3'6" here. And as we go down, we want the grade to go down. If we want the water to flow that way, the numbers should go up. So as we move out over here, our numbers should be bigger. And Todd, you were standing right. There we go, thank you. So whatever number this should be, sometimes it takes a little bit to find the number. Where the hell is that number? It's right here. So we're at 3'7". So that tells me that from this point to this point, we've got 1 inch of drop. And as we continue, as long as we want the water to shed away, we should maintain that 1 inch of drop for every 8 feet of run. In fact, I'm gonna guess that we're almost 8 feet dead on. Yeah, actually we technically are 8 feet. So this is our 8 foot mark right. Alright guys, well I hope this video has helped you out, and a big thanks goes out to Dewalt, because they actually came up with the idea for this video and said, hey, what do you think about doing something like this? And I have honestly used Dewalt rotary lasers for a really long time. According to the Dewalt people, I'm supposed to tell you that they sent me the laser to use in this video, even though I've bought, I can't tell you how many of their lasers I've already had. They sent me the one that I used in this video because I guess it's the latest and greatest thing, so I don't know, it's just, there you go, I did what they wanted me to do. And it's a great product. In fact, I've switched entirely over from other units to the Dewalt rotary laser that you see in this video. But hey, here's a bunch of really cool other videos that I made just for you guys. So make sure you go check these out right here and tell me, what do you guys want to see next? Just lay it on me on the comments down below. God bless you guys. Go get them.